I'm Anna. It's so great to be with you today on this Life Hacks Zoom call. Uh, I'm a hairstylist, and I've been in the fashion and music industry, doing hair for music videos, fashion shoots, advertising campaigns, and shows at London Fashion Week for about 10 years. I would say that probably one of the highlights of my career has been working with the singer Lana Del Rey, with whom I collaborated with for about 7 years, working on all her campaigns and music videos. And so fast forward to 2022, and I still work with Lana, and I'm mainly between London and New York and LA. And today for me is about being available to give you, talk to you about your hair, about scalp health, hair care, and about sharing tips and tricks on how to style your hair, look after it, and be available to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shani.
So Anna will be with us for 30 minutes and we'll be answering your questions about hair that have come in, and she'll try and answer everyone's questions that come in from the chat and from raised hands too. And then for the second half of Life Hacks, it will be an informal chat with me. I used to work at Bare Minerals for about 3 years and was doing makeup on a range of people, including the VI community. So I'm hoping I can help you and give you some advice and some tips about skincare as well as makeup, with the help of Look mentors Alice, Abby and Charlotte M, who are all experienced in VI makeup application. So I'm going to go straight on to asking Anna lots of questions. So Anna, please could you tell us a bit about how you got into hairstyling, why hair care and styling is so important, and how did you become involved in advising people with sight loss?
Yes, so well, obviously I touched on how I came into my career as a hairstylist, but I came into it after studying performing arts. So I was always really interested in just the idea of being able to create characters through hair, makeup, and design. And sorry, what was the second question, please, Shani?
The second question was, so why hair care and styling is so important?
Yes, well, I think for me, obviously, as a hairstylist in this industry, it's really important because people, especially artists, celebrities, are very much looked to by the public for inspiration. And with that comes a necessity to look a certain way and to, I guess, to also show their vision also through their aesthetic as well as their music. And the reason why I really wanted to advise on hair care and give tips and tricks, especially to the VI community, is because my father was blind. He had retinitis pigmentosa, and from a very, very young age, I would remember him speaking about his appearance, and he would always make a point in wearing suits. You know, he would really dress up whenever we would go out, or he had to just do simple tasks like going to the bank to sort out his affairs. And I remember a conversation that he and I had about his hair. I think I was about 13 years old, and I remember walking into the bathroom and he was clippering his own hair, and he was holding an envelope at the back of his head and running the clippers along the top of the envelope to basically help him create a straight line. And I said to him, "Why are you doing that?" And he said, "Well, he said it's really important for me to make sure that I look and feel my best. And what this does is help me to feel confident and helps me to feel seen. And it's something that stuck with me really throughout my childhood and into my training as a hairstylist. And I think especially looking back on my career working with artists and celebrities, I can see the impact that them being able to walk out feeling and looking their best also helps them to feel confident and empowered. And I think that it's so important that that is something that we all are able to have and have access to. And it's why it was really important for me to get to a point in my career where I could offer and give my services back to the community and especially to VIs.
Thank you, Anna. And I think we have quite a few questions to get through, so we're going to go through them, and then everyone, if you have any questions, you can ask after if we have time. So another question we had come through is, how many times is a good amount of times to wash your hair?
So this question always comes up, and I would say that it's very much an individual thing. A lot of people suffer with greasy hair, or they often go to the gym and or exercise at home, and so it can leave them feeling that they need to wash their hair regularly. But I would say on average, if you have normal, I would say normal hair, normal scalp, I would say twice to 3 times a week is enough. And mainly because if a person is washing their hair every day or every other day, it can actually do the opposite. So for people, for example, for those who I've known of that do wash their hair regularly and are washing it every other day because they say that their scalp is greasy, it's actually washing hair that often that can start creating even more grease in the scalp, because you're stripping the scalp and the hair follicles of their natural oils. And so when the scalp is being washed so much, the body starts thinking that it's being stripped of that moisture, and so the sebaceous glands can start overproducing, and that's what then can actually cause the grease. So it's really, really important, if you can, to only wash your hair 2 to 3 times a week.
Perfect. Thank you, Anna. And I think you actually made a very good point in our last workshop, because everyone was very surprised that it's only that amount of time. So it actually works, though, because I've started to do that and washing it less. So
and has it
thanks
helped?
to you. Yeah, definitely it has. And I don't feel like I have that build up anymore. It's worked a lot better. So the second question was, how can I make using straighteners accessible, as I find heat equipment scary and also miss bits when I use them? And that was from Natasha.
So hi, Natasha. I think, like with anything in life, we have to be shown how to use something first, and especially when it does come to using heated tools, it can be quite dangerous, especially if your visual impairment is severe. And so I would always advise that if it's the first time using heated tools, that you're doing it with someone who can show you, and you're using these days heated irons, straighteners, they'll come with gloves, with finger gloves, and I would say that that's a really, really helpful way of doing your hair whilst wearing those, because if you are to find it a little bit difficult, you've got a bit of extra protection. I would say the other things are, and again, this is all very dependent on each individual's hair texture and thickness, and so these are just very simple guidelines, but I would obviously always use heated tools on dry hair. Some people, again, will style their hair, will rough dry it, and then will use the straighteners, for example, straight away, and actually that's quite damaging for the hair. You want to make sure that you have completely dried your hair, that you're using a heat protection, and then what I would do, if you imagine an orange, so say you have an orange in your hand, and you imagine cutting that orange into 4 pieces. So the two pieces at the front, so those would be from the top of your head down to the top of your ear, and you would section that off and bring that section forward. That's one piece, one section of the orange. You then repeat the same thing on the opposite side. So at the top of the head, and then with your finger traveling down to the top of the ear, sectioning that hair and pulling the hair that's in front of the ear forward. And then you've got your 2 sections at the front. I would then clip one section away. So those crocodile clips or those separation section clips that you can get, and when you come to the in-person workshop, you'll be given some of those. You can use, they're really helpful way to, because sometimes people will try to style their hair, but they haven't sectioned it, and so they're trying to style whilst all the hair is down, and that's what can then make it dangerous and a lot harder to do. So and then the back of the head, again, you would start, so with your finger from the top of the head, you will travel down the middle all the way to the nape, and where that hair separates, you would pull that across to each side, and so then you've got your 4 sections. Does that make sense? Obviously I can't see you and you're all muted, but Shani, obviously you will be able to go through this in a bit more detail in the in-person workshops.
And I think also we'll make a resource where we can give this sort of tip written down as well, with maybe some diagrams or something.
Exactly.
But it's a very good way of doing it, sectioning in 4 spaces and being able to do each part. So
exactly, in 4 sections, and ideally you would have 3 section clips. You'd clip away each section that you're not working on, and then you'd start with the section at the back first. So you do the back first, and then you move on to the front 2 sections. So when you've got your first section at the back, so remember this is just 1/4 of your hair, it's really helpful to lean, so the side of the hair that you're working on, then tilt your head to that side, because then you can use the straighteners and get them right to the roots, or your curling irons. And if you have really thick hair, then what you might want to do is also split that 1/4 into 2, so that again you're not feeling overwhelmed by the amount of hair. And so if it's straighteners that you're using and you're wearing your gloves, you would run the straighteners from the roots all the way down, quite gently and slowly. Actually, the slower it is, the better it will be, actually, because that will really help to straighten the hair. Because sometimes if you do it really quickly, that can just create, it can make the hair quite static. And I would approach using curling irons in the same way. I would say that curling irons are a little bit trickier, because obviously they're heated all the way round. And so that's a little bit harder to explain, but because it's all about holding your arm up quite high. So you're styling, so the arm, if you're right-handed, I'm right-handed, I would use the curling irons with my right hand. What a lot of people do will just keep their elbows down and then try to curl the hair, but then it can get a little bit confusing with where the direction of the curl is. And so if you lift your elbow up, and so you have, if you're holding the curling irons and you have them pointing downwards, then you can take a section of hair from your quarter and you can wrap the hair around the tongue. What's really important is to keep that elbow up, because then you'll automatically have the curling iron away from your ear. Because otherwise, if your elbow is down, and you can practice it, if your elbow is down, you'll notice that your hand is actually a lot closer to your ear. And I find that that's a really useful tip, and one that I have shared with a lot of my clients. Of course, it's never going to be as easy as a hairstylist or a friend or a parent or a sibling doing your hair, but if you felt that you really wanted to start practicing, I would say that those are my top tips. But again, we would cover this in person.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And I think it's even just trying to hold a curler is scary in itself. So it's totally normal, because it is hot all the way around. And I've burnt myself so many times. So I think that's a really good hack as well, just to keep your elbow up. Really good. And we do have a question from Lena. So I think I want to take it on, because I don't want to miss what topic we are on. So Lena, do you want to ask your question?
You're on mute, Lena.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hiya.
Yeah, hello. You said to like, if you're using a straightener, to do it when your hair is dry. How about if you've got one of the wet and dry hair straighteners?
Oh, good question. I've not actually used those. Did they recommend to you to straighten your hair when the hair is wet with that tool?
They say, yeah, they say either when it's wet or dry.
Oh.
What's your hair texture like, Lena, and how thick is it?
It's medium thickness and very smooth.
And very smooth.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And why is it that you like using the straighteners if your hair is smooth?
So it is smooth, but like without me using the hair straighteners, it can get really wavy.
Okay. So yeah, I think because your hair is already smooth, then as I said, I've never used those tools, the wet and dry straighteners before. I just think that, if you think about it from a logistical point of view, your hair dryer can dry your hair, and then your straighteners can just literally smooth the hair just in that last stage, because otherwise you're having to use the straighteners to also dry the hair, and that's a lot of heat to have in contact with your hair if it is wet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our next question is coloring hair. So how do I pick a color? As a young person, I would like to be more independent and not rely on someone else to help pick the color. So how would you advise someone to sort of decide with a VI what hair color to go for?
I would say, as a starting point, it would always be, I would always recommend booking in a consultation at a salon, somewhere where you feel safe, and with a colorist who has been recommended. And I would when you make the appointment, I think it's really important to say exactly what you need, and that you just want to have a consultation and be advised on colors that would suit your skin complexity, complexion, sorry, because a lot of people, so I've got olive skin, and so cool colors don't really look good on me. I always have to go for quite warm colors. And so I think if you can go somewhere where you're speaking to an expert and he or she or they can advise on a mixture of colors that would look good on you, and that would also not involve a lot of processes, because that's the other thing to think about. Some people, you know, have, say, dry, thick, curly hair. They may be of Caucasian heritage, and they want to be blonde. And yes, we can all go to a shop and buy a bleach and dye our hair at home, but the implications of that, or the ripple effect of that, can actually be quite extensive. And so I think it's really, really important to know what can your hair take. And again, that kind of advice, if you're getting that advice from an expert, then you're going away with lots of information, and I think that in itself will be empowering. And then say they've said to you, okay, well, with your skin tone and your type of hair, you would look great with auburn hair, or with bright red hair, also light toffee colors, then you know that you can then choose from those 5, 6, 7 colors. And I think another nice way to think about color changes and how to choose a color is the season. I always think it's nicer to go for dark, richer colors in the autumn, winter, because we're you know, it's nice for the hair to look really like glossy, and then in the summer months it's nicer to have lighter colors, because that's kind of gives the illusion of like sun-kissed hair, summer beach hair. Does that help? I hope that helps.
Thanks, Anna, that's great. And another question that we do have is, do you have any top tips on caring and styling Afro hair?
Yes, so I think with Afro hair, depending on what your heritage is, there are different, so treatments are really, really important. And I very much support people who want to wear their hair out. I think, you know, we've seen a lot of changes in the industry, within the hair industry, and about how different textures, so from type 1A all the way to 4C, are talked about, and how people approach those hair textures. And I think for a very long time, people with type 4A, B, C hair would often either wear wigs or have their hair braided or have extensions, which of course that's amazing, because it can give so much versatility and help you achieve lots of different hairstyles. But I think separate to that, I think the other reason why people have had the need to do that is because they've not felt empowered about to wear their hair out naturally, because it's sometimes it's associated with a person not looking presentable, or, you know, their hair being too big or too wild or too messy. And I think the conversations are beginning to change. And so what I think can really, really help with that, irrespective of whether you like wearing your hair out or having wearing wigs or cornrows, is to make sure that you're using treatments on your hair. So again, and the reason I mentioned finding out exactly what your heritage is within the type 4A, B, and C, there's then also which country or what the heritage is, that can then help determine what mixtures of treatments you use. Like I know someone who will mix coconut oil with castor oil and almond oil. She'll heat it up and create a mix and work that through her, put that on her scalp and work that through her hair. And then she will leave that in for like 3 to 4 days. Immediately after she's applied it and worked it through, she'll put either a heated towel or some cling film around her hair so that the hair can really absorb the moisture from that treatment. So yes, so doing treatments regularly is very important for Afro hair.
Thank you very much. And I guess because we haven't got much time left with hair questions, so I'm going to put 2 in one. There's a question about having to tie up thick hair. Someone has put they struggle a lot to tie up themselves, and can they do anything different with their hair instead of just a low ponytail?
Yes.
How can they?
Yes. So I think that it's always great to have, and again, this is something for those of you that have not been to a workshop, you'll get a goodie bag with lots of things in there, including hair ties, pins, grips, the little donuts. So to have an array of accessories can be really helpful for those of you that get bored with your hair and want to style your hair differently. So anything from, you know, really lovely clips to hair bands, to scarves, using those, that's a really good start to playing with your hair and trying different styles. But then again, if you want to do like a ponytail or plaits, I think it's important, going back to when we were talking about how to use heated tools, always think of separating your hair into sections. So for those of you who've got thick hair and you want to do a sleek, tight, high ponytail, think about splitting your hair into 2, but horizontally. So going from the top of your ear all the way round the back to the top of the other ear, and taking that as your first section. You can use some hairspray, brushing that back, and that will be half the amount of hair that you have to get into the ponytail. And you just have to, so you take that into your ponytail, that's secure, and then you do your second ponytail. So the hair that's remaining at the back, you would bring that up to that ponytail, to that same ponytail, and you would use a second band. That's a really easy and useful way to approach doing either ponytails or braids. Always think about splitting the hair into sections, and actually enjoying that you that might then help to create different styles. I really love actually doing 2 ponytails and then twisting each ponytail back on itself and using pins to then create like a cute bun at the back. But again, this is something that we'll explore more in our in-person workshops.
Lovely, thank you, Anna. And I'm just going to go for one more question that's in the chat. So Maria has asked how to care for fine soft hair if you use straighteners often.
So fine soft hair, and do you use straighteners because your hair is wavy?
Maria? You're on mute, Maria.
Oh no, you're saying you have split ends.
Oh, split ends, there you go.
Okay. Yeah. So Maria, I would say the least you use your straighteners, the better it is. I think certainly, you know, obviously there's lots of factors. I'm going to assume that if every time you wash and dry your hair that you're using the straighteners, but what you have to realize is using that kind of heat on your hair all the time means that it's going to dry out the hair, which will then make the split ends worse. So the first thing that I would say is use a treatment on your hair, so that a treatment that will help to moisturize your hair to help counteract the effects of the heated appliance, the straighteners. Try and get regular trims, so cut away, even if it's just a tiny bit. It's important to keep cutting off the split ends, because otherwise the split actually just keeps traveling further and further up the hair. So important to cut your hair regularly and apply moisture. And if you can reduce the use of the straightening irons, I would say that that will also help.
Perfect, thanks.
you.
And can I squeeze in one more question?
Yeah, and I can spare another 5-10 minutes if you need it.
Yes, sure. Perfect. Yeah, that'd be great. So there's another question. Sorry, could you please ask Anna about caring for hair for people with albinism, please?
Yes. So
Yeah.
generally, in my experience, the people who I've worked with that have albinism, their hair is tended to be, because there is no melanin, no pigment, the hair is tended to be very, very dry and coarse. And so it's important, again, to use treatments on your hair. Depending on what your heritage is, I would either go for a homemade treatment. So if you are of African heritage, Caribbean heritage, you could use a mix of like almond oil and coconut oil to help put lots of moisture into the hair. Do that on a regular basis, at least once a week to once every two weeks, if it's too much to do it once a week. And then depending on what your natural texture is, it's then important if, say, for example, your hair is coarse and frizzy and you want to wear it softer, wave, like a soft wave, or straighten it, for example, then again it's important to use heat protection products. So that will again just help whilst you're blow drying your hair. And maybe something that you could also think about is visiting a salon or calling a salon to see if they offer keratin treatments, and whether that would because that could be actually quite useful for people who have albinism and have even coarser hair. The keratin can just help to relax the hair, not remove all of the texture, but just help to relax it and make it a little bit more manageable.
Perfect, thank you. And what shampoo is best for sensitive scalp?
So I would try to understand first why the scalp is sensitive. So sometimes your scalp can be sensitive if you're not washing your scalp properly. So you can end up getting a buildup on the scalp, which in turn can start aggravating the skin. So try to find out first what is the root of the problem. I mainly work with brands like L'Oreal, Kerastase, and Oribe. They are actually supporters of the hair and care workshops and do donate lots of wonderful products that you'll be able to take away at the workshop. But I think Kerastase do treatments for sensitive scalp and hair. And so again, Shani, I could send you a link, and then maybe you could share that with who asked me that?
Rihanna. Yeah, so I'll definitely put that as part of the resource as well.
Yes, yeah, Kerastase is a wonderful brand. It's a little bit expensive, but you don't need a lot. It's highly concentrated and effective. So it's better to make that investment for a treatment, because if you're not using it often, it will last longer, and also for a shampoo. But I think finding out what the root of the problem is the first step.
Perfect. Rihanna said thank you.
Thanks, Rihanna.
Okay, perfect.
I-
So I think
I've got the other questions. I can quickly skim through them.
yes, if you'd like
Yeah.
to.
Okay, different words relating to the meaning. So this is also about color. Balayage, highlights, semi-permanence, they're all different types of colors and color techniques. A balayage is, imagine if you were to twist your hair. This is a very simplified explanation, and a colorist will probably hate what I'm about to say, but just to help give you the illusion of or help you imagine what that's like. If you were to twist your hair and scrunch lots of different colors that are, you know, maybe kind of sun-kissed colors, like a warm golden color with a toffee color, and you were to scrunch that into your hair, that's the effect of a balayage. It kind of is a very kind of natural looking color technique. Semi-permanent, that would be for people who want to change their color and they don't want it to wash out immediately. Permanent color is for people who want to have a permanent color. Obviously, as your hair grows, the color grows out. Doing a high lift tint, that can be, say, for example, if you had brown hair, brown hair, but you wanted to go a bit blonder, or you wanted to go a bit lighter, a colorist would be able to use a high lift tint, but that hasn't got bleach in it, to help create the lighter color. But for someone who's got really dark hair like myself and Shani, if we wanted to go light, we would have to have the hair bleached first to strip the color away from the hair, and then you would have a toner put onto it. So whatever color you then wanted the result to be, they'd have to then add that in. Products, recommending products for different types of hair. That's a really difficult question to answer in a couple of minutes, because products can include shampoo, conditioner, treatments, and styling products. And styling products, that includes putting products on your hair when you're drying it, but then also styling products for when you're finishing the style. So that's something that I think would be better discussed in person once I see your hair textures. Dry shampoo, I love Batiste. You can pick that up from Boots or Superdrug. I think the key thing is to not overuse it and to hold it at a distance. And then once you've sprayed it into the roots, then it's always good to massage the product into the hair, because that will just help the powder to settle. And they'll be less likely for those flecks to remain in the hair.
I think there's also the coloured dry shampoo now at Batiste.
Exactly.
So you can get it for your hair colour, so it's not
Sorry.
white specks
Sorry.
in
Sorry.
your hair, because I
Sorry.
found that quite frustrating. Yeah.
Sorry, one question.
You okay, Lena?
Yeah, sorry, one question. What would you
Yeah.
recommend for like if you've got a lot of dandruff?
Again, Alina, I would say working out or asking a parent or a sibling or your carer to help you understand where that dandruff is. Is it all over? And then secondly, understanding, are you shampooing your scalp properly? Because again, our scalps can become greasy or very, very dry and lead to like dandruff, eczema, psoriasis, if we're not washing our scalps properly, because there can be a buildup of product, pollution, dirt, that can then in turn become or exacerbate a problem and So it's important to understand first if that dandruff is coming from not washing your hair properly. And if it is that you are washing your hair properly, and it is that your skin is very, very dry, then I would suggest doing treatments on your scalp. And again, something very gentle like almond oil or coconut oil, massaging that into your scalp, not necessarily your hair, but more your scalp. And maybe doing that for a period of like 3 months, say every other week. It will leave your hair very greasy, but it's a fantastic natural way to help treat scalps that are very, very dry. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, if there was any other questions for hair, please do make sure to put them in the chat, and we can ask Anna off the Zoom and put it in a resource. We hope that you guys found that very helpful. And just thank you to you, Anna, for joining us today. I think it was really great to have you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope it was all useful, and we're working on doing a workshop. It was meant to be on the 26th of July, but we're looking at another day that week or the week after, and hopefully there'll be some of you now that you're on school leave, that you'll be able to come down to London and come to an in-person workshop where we can explore all these things in a bit more detail.
Perfect. Thank you, Anna. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoy the next session, and thanks to you, Claire, as well. Thanks, Shani. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Waving bye-bye.